No internet connection inside Docker containers. I cannot execute any command requiring internet connection inside any Docker container. Works. Does not work. Similar with pip and ping. I am on Ubuntu 16.04 and not using firewall or corporate proxy server and have tried to restart Docker. Update in interactive mode fails in the same fashion. Sudo apt-get update runs successfully on host, i.e. on my computer outside Docker. Up Docker version 1.12.1, build 23 CF 638.
As suggested by Creek on GitHub issue number 866 for Docker. It will force Docker to recreate the bridge and renit all the network rules.
There is a similar issue at Stack Overflow where a different solution solves this issue with Docker 17.09 on Ubuntu 16.04. Check the contents of resolve.conf. If it includes a line like name server 127.0.1.1, it means the containers are obtaining an incorrect name server. To fix this, edit the networkmanager.conf file and comment out the line with DNS equals and mask. The file should look like this. Finally, restart the network manager. Test again the container.
I've already answered it here, this URL. I'm copying the answer below. First thing to check is run cat/etc/resolve.conf in the Docker container. If it has an invalid DNS server, such as name server 127.0.x.x, then the container will not be able to resolve the domain names into IP addresses, so ping google.com will fail. Second thing to check is run cat/etc/resolve.conf on the host machine. Docker basically copies the host/etc/resolve.conf to the container every time a container is started. So if the host/etc/resolve.conf is wrong, then so will the Docker container. If you have found that the host/etc/resolve.conf is wrong, then you have two options: hardcode the DNS server in daemon.jsn. This is easy, but not ideal if you expect the DNS server to change. Fix the host/etc/resolve.conf. This is a little trickier, but it is generated dynamically, and you are not hardcoding the server. 1. Hardcode DNS server in docker daemon.jsn. Edit /etc/docker/daemon.jsn. Now when you run /start a container, Docker will populate /etc/resolve.conf with the values from daemon.jsn. 2. Fix the hosts/etc/resolve.conf. Ubuntu 16.04 and earlier. For Ubuntu 16.04 and earlier, /etc/resolve.conf was dynamically generated by Network Manager. Comment out the line DNS equals mask with a hashtag in /etc/networkmanager/networkmanager.conf. Restart the Network Manager to regenerate /etc/resolve.conf. Sudo system to restart Network Manager. Verify on the host cat/etc/resolve.conf. Ubuntu 18.04 and later. Ubuntu 18.04 changed to use systemd-resolve to generate /etc/resolve.conf. Now by default it uses a local DNS cache 127.0.0.53. That will not work inside a container, so Docker will default to Google's 8.8.8.8 DNS server, which may break for people behind a firewall. /etc/resolve.conf is actually a symlink, ls/etc/resolve.conf, which points to break time equals 1s/break 127.0.0.53. By default in Ubuntu 18.04. Just change the symlink to point to break time equals 1s/break, which lists the real DNS servers. Sudo ln sf break time equals 1s/break is /etc/resolve.conf. Verify on the host cat/etc/resolve.conf. Now you should have a valid /etc/resolve.conf on the host for Docker to copy into the containers.
When you create container using Docker run without specifying its network explicitly, network foo, Docker connects it to default bridge network. Default bridge network has been deprecated, can't find information, from which version of Docker engine, should be considered an implementation detail and shouldn't be used. But, more importantly, any container connected to default bridge network prohibited from networking with outside world, seek differences between user-defined bridges and default bridge. You can enable such networking to outside world, but I don't recommend to do so. It requires you to persist suggested host configuration changes, which can be not what you want. Solution is simple, just create your own, user-defined, bridge network, name it, say, common, and use it explicitly with each one-off container created with Docker run.
Hypnotic Puzzle3 퍼스문제를 맞히 애써 스파이링